What does it say? Episode? Yeah. Still says episode 127 on X. Carl, good to see you, brother. How you doing? How you been? Pure, good to see you. How you doing? Evening. Kerry, talk Miles. I'll talk to you about. Good to see you. How you doing, Kerry? Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? Fibonacci, how you doing? Hello. Comatose, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? Free and Fairway, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Tall, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Kerry, what's up, Miles? I'm doing great. How you doing, Kerry? Morning, Miles. How are you today? I'm doing great, Shelly. How you doing? Morning. T, let's go. How you doing? Hi, Miles, CMF. Dennis, good to see you as well. How you doing? Hi, Miles, CMF. Hey, CMF. Let's go, Shelly. Good day, Miles and CMF. How you doing, Mike? Good to see you as well, brother. So, we'll do a gist of what we're going to go through on tonight's live show, the intro and disclaimer, and by that time, everyone's tuned in for the first part of the live show. I messaged you about Matic on Telegram Talk. I'll check it out after the live show. Hey, Miles, how are you doing? I'm doing great. Daniel, how you doing? Good to see you as well. So a lot of things have been happening, mainly around the Telegram founder, but also in different jurisdictions. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that we're going to go through on tonight's live show as well, in terms of Dubai, in terms of Russia, in terms of China, in terms of the UK as well. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes in terms of Hong Kong. So let's do a gist of what we're going to go through on tonight's live show, and then we'll go through the intro, disclaimer, and by that time everyone's tuning in for the first part. Just want to say that this is episode 140 of the CMF live show, not episode 127. I still can't get the title to change on X for some oddly reason, and neither can Restream by the looks of it, because I reported this bug and this issue to Restream 3 episodes in. So 3 episodes in, I let Restream know that this issue is going on, and now we're pretty much 14 episodes in, and Restream still isn't able to fix the bug. It just makes no sense for such a small bug of changing a title. Why does it take this long? But putting that to one side, this is episode 140. So on tonight's live show, we are going to be talking about the Fed. So senior Fed member speaks out about bullish sentiments on interest rate cuts. A senior Fed member has just came out and did an interview. So we're going to go through what she talked about and how she presumes this Friday coming up the data is going to be. We're also going to talk about MicroStrategy on tonight's live show as well. MicroSailor is a subject that we sometimes do speak about. Now we have updates on MicroStrategy's recent ETF in terms of volume coming into it. We're also going to go through the news topic of Telegram on tonight's live show as well. Telegram CEO is still facing extended detention as French authorities investigate. We have an update regarding the Telegram situation from the French authorities, from Macron, the weasel. We also have an update on a lot of things that are right now happening around Telegram and towards the Ton crypto project as well to go through on tonight's live show. We're also going to go through the topic of Tether on tonight's live show as well, talking about how the EU is pretty much losing the battle of freedom of speech, and it pretty much doesn't exist. We're also going to go through the topic of China on tonight's live show as well, how China's titans, essentially tech titans, are ramping up their AI investments in response to the US sanctions. We're also going to go through the topic on tonight's live show regarding India, regarding their CBDC pilots that have pretty much attracted over 5 million people inside of India right now using CBDCs. We're also going to go through the topic of Dubai on tonight's live show as well, how Dubai's Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority, their VARA, essentially is preparing for a global ecosystem. We're also going to go through the topic of, on tonight's live show, the internalization of the yuan in terms of how far has the yuan came, how far was extending beyond, and the topic of SWIFT is also what we're going to be discussing on tonight's live show as well. We're also going to go through the topic of Russia on tonight's live show as well, and Russia to trial cryptocurrency exchanges for cross-border payments. So I recently revealed that Russia was working on two types of events, two types of crypto platforms, one that's going to be connected to Moscow Exchange and another one in St. Petersburg. Now we have some deadlines and some timings on when is this going to be occurring, when is Russia going to get involved in cross-border payments, and so on. So, mixture of topics to go through in terms of Russia, China, Dubai, India, in terms of countries and jurisdictions, and also the Telegram situation to go through is on how it's really impacted quite a lot of things. The Fed reports and Tether's perspectives on the market movements as well. So, before we go through any of that, welcome to the CMF Live Show. If you're watching this for the first time ever, welcome to the CMF Live Show. It stands for Crypto Mouse Family, the CMF. And on this live show, every single night, I talk about the most recent things that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations. And this is episode 140, and I'm fully aware that on X it is episode 127 with a different title, but this is episode 140, hence why I put it inside the title here, just to stop the confusion until this bug is fixed between the system. But anyways, putting that to one side, welcome to the CMF Live Show. The disclaimer of this live show is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So, welcome if you're new, and if you're regular, let's go CMF. The live show has officially started now. Let's go inside the comment section first before we go for the first news, which is a perspective from an interview that a senior Fed member has just done. Manny, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Daniel, everything's going great. How's it going with you? Denise, good to see you as well. How you doing? Hello, Miles and CMF. First time on YouTube. It's Carol. Good to see you as well. How you doing? First time on YouTube. Okay, my name shows. Yep. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Orphan, good to see you as well. How you doing? George, good to see you as well. How you doing? Hi, Miles and CMF. Hello, Miles and CMF. Glenda, good to see you as well. How you doing? Evening, Miles and family. Ian, good to see you as well. How you doing? Mav, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? By the way, thank you so much to everyone that's retweeting and liking this live show on X and on YouTube as well. By the way, thanks so much to everyone that's doing that right now, right at the beginning of the live show, for the retweets and the likes, to get notifications about it. So, first news on tonight's live show is, good evening, Miles. How are you doing? I'm doing great, Callie. Good to see you as well. Perfect timing. First news on tonight's live show is senior Fed member. A senior Fed member speaks bullish, essentially, sentiments on interest rate cuts. San Francisco's Fed President, Mary, said she believes the timing is right for the central bank to start lowering interest rates. She said the labor market has reached full, essentially, scales. It's time to adjust the policy. Dale remarks echoes comments made by Fed Chairman Jerome Powell at the Jackson Hole Symposium last week, where he expressed confidence that inflation was on track to return to the Fed's 2% target. Jerome Powell also said it was time to adjust the policies. Dale reiterated the Fed's commitment to lowering inflation to its 2% target, but said the central bank's aims essentially to do so without unduly damaging the labor market as much. Our goal has been to bring down inflation as smoothly as possible, Dale said, with the economy expected to grow at our slightly below trend. The Fed is cautious about declaring premature victories over inflation, Dale said, while acknowledging that economic growth could be modest. Dale said that it was important to avoid significant weakening of the labor markets. I don't want to see any further weakening of the labor markets. We want the labor markets to maintain at its current level, he said. The San Francisco Fed president concluded his remarks by stating that the most likely scenario is gradually slowing down in inflation along with the stable labor market conditions. Okay, so this is pretty much the third person that's pretty much came out regarding what Jerome Powell said. Jerome Powell stating that everything's pretty much going quite normal, and then we have 3 Fed members coming out and repeating his exact words. Now, this Friday coming up is still very crucial. Are we going to get, essentially rate cuts happening? Is a yes and no type of scenario. So Jerome Powell has to give some sort of a yes or no this Friday coming up on the data reports of, are we going to have interest rates, yes or no? So the market knows where it stands. The stock market and the crypto market knows exactly where it stands based on Jerome Powell. So his speech coming up this Friday is going to be quite a crucial one. And the senior Fed member doing an interview pretty much repeated what he said as well, that we could be headed towards some sort of a rate cut. So next news on tonight's live show is regarding MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, recently did launch essentially an ETF. Now, a lot of people aren't fully aware of this matter. Some people are inside the crypto space. I have reported on it twice because they released two types of ETFs, both of them quite volatile. 1.75 was one of them, and the other one was 1.5x in terms of leverage as a Bitcoin ETF. They are ranked at pretty much the most volatile ETF any business can enter into, any institutional investor could pretty much enter into. And the trading volume of these ETFs have been ridiculously quite well. So MicroStrategy's ETF hits $127 million in assets, $100 million in daily trading. The newly launched MicroStrategy ETF, MSTX, has had an incredible rise, gaining $127 million in assets just 6 days of inception. Investor interest in this ETF, which offers 1.75% X leverage on MicroStrategy shares, MSTR, has grown considerably in a short period of time. Strong grassroots interest is evident in the quick speed of asset accumulation, which reflects confidence and leveraged exposure to MicroStrategy's underlying assets. The ETF's appeal in the market is evident from the significant increase in assets, given the size of the accumulation in such a short period of time. MSTX has identified a small but very interesting segment for investors. The focus on leveraging, essentially leverage to provide an amplified returns, has probably drawn individuals seeking more potential gains in respect of increased risk. Apart from its impressive increase in assets, MSTX has also begun to trade more than $100 million per day. For an ETF at this stage of this development, 6 days in, and it's already trading $100 million a day in trading volume. The volume of trades is very significant, suggesting that investors have taken an immediate interest in terms of liquidity from the fund. Strong market activity is essentially indicated by the daily trading volume, which indicates that traders are actively using this high leverage product. The $100 million daily volume is an impressive achievement that demonstrates the ETF's capacity to regularly draw a large number of trades, not only and increases the fund's liquidity, but also shows that a broad range of investors are actually adapting to the idea of MSTX. The price of ETFs is frequently more stable when there are large trading volumes, which makes it easier for investors to buy and sell without experiencing large price swings. Despite its early success, MSTX has already shown a high degree of price volatility. The ETF saw a 20% increase on Friday, reflecting its potential for significant gains. This surge followed by a 10% drop by the day before, highlighting the inherent risk essentially tied to this ETF leverage structure. Such a pronounced price swings emphasize the high risk, high reward characteristics of leveraged ETFs. While the possibility of rapid growth and gains can be attractive, the same leverage that boosts returns also intensifies losses at the same time. Investors should thoroughly assess their risk appetite before engaging with this ETF. The MicroStrategy ETF has made a strong debut with a rapid asset accumulation and high trading volumes, making it an early access. Given its inherent volatility, nevertheless, investors are advised to proceed cautiously and weigh out the risk and potential benefits before entering into MSTX is quite critical. The MSTX performance and investors' mood, as long as it keeps attracting attention. It seems like MicroStrategy is doing excellent by the looks of it. 6 days in terms of trading volume, and $100 million in trading volume is what's happening. 6 days in, $100 million a day in terms of trading volume is crazy. If you think about it, this is the most leveraged, the most volatile ETF in the entire market space. But huge amounts of investments are going into it for it to be doing that much on a daily trading volume within 6 days, which is massive. But it also shows that institutional investors are still right around the corner. If they're coming in, for ETF stable prices or ETF leverage positions, it seems like, institutional investors are interested in both in terms of being inside the crypto space. Now, the next news topic we're going to be talking about, which basically just shows the confidence is still there inside the market space, which is quite an impressive move. Telegram CEO is the next topic we're going to talk about, because Telegram CEO situation is affecting essentially one particular crypto project, which is Ton. The Ton ecosystem right now is being heavily affected by this issue of Telegram's CEO and founder essentially being stuck within French authorities. Now, the French authorities have decided to come out and give their perspectives finally on the matter. But it's not a perspective we were all anticipating from the French authorities to give. It seems like Pavel is going to be stuck in France for quite a while by the looks of it. Now, he is supposed to be released on the 28th. They can only hold essentially Pavel until the 28th. But apparently the French authorities are trying to make some sort of court battle where he has to be in France to be able to, essentially have access to this court scenario. But also, a few other essentially people, apparently Rumble's CEO, for example, has now just fled EU as well. It seems like entrepreneurs in terms of social media platforms that provide freedom of speech are running away from the EU right now, because even Rumble's CEO, who advocates for freedom of speech, has decided to escape the EU. He tweeted about it and said, pretty much, I've escaped the EU. Thank God I've made it somewhere else. And I don't think he's ever going to set foot inside the EU as well. So it's getting quite serious on the matter of freedom of speech inside of France, with the Rumble CEO, after hearing what happened to Pavel, the founder of Telegram, he decided to escape the EU as well, because he was in the EU at the time and he got very scared that he might be next to be arrested. So he escaped as well. So freedom of speech there's definitely a crackdown happening on freedom of speech. Now, bringing it back to essentially the crypto markets, Telegram's CEO faces extended detention as French authorities investigate. The French authorities prolonged his initial detention term to 96 hours to continue questioning him regarding various accusations against him and his channel. The charges include failing to moderate criminal activities effectively on Telegram, which authorities claim facilitates various illicit activities. Judicial response and legal framework. French President Emmanuel Macron has addressed the public, emphasizing that Pavel's arrest is strictly a judicial matter, with no political undertones. Macron assured that the legal proceedings follow due process within the French judicial system's framework. So according to Macron, there's no issue, from his perspective, there's no issue. This is just a normal legal procedure that we're taking, because he was not censoring his platform for illicit activities. He highlighted France's commitment to freedom of expression and communication, but stressed that such freedoms must operate within legal restraints and constraints to ensure public safety and adherence to national and EU laws. So no freedom of speech, basically. Essentially global reaction and company defense. The arrest has sparked significant discussions within the tech community, and among global leaders defending its CEO, Telegram stated that Pavel has nothing to hide, that the platform adheres to EU regulations, including the Digital Services Act. They argue that the moderation practices are within the industry standards. The case has drawn attention from various figures, including Elon Musk, who voiced his support for Pavel with the hashtag #FreePavel, reflecting a broader concerns about free speech and the responsibility of platform owners. Telegram's role and scrutiny. Telegram has developed as a communication medium, particularly during major geopolitical events such as Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Okay, there's quite a bit of a backstory to the Pavel scenario. So let me just give you this. It has been praised for offering neutral platform for free expression and chastity for permitting the spread of unlawful content. So around the world, essentially, as we all know, the only thing money can't buy, there's one thing that money can't buy, and everybody will say it's time, it's time, it's time. That's just common sense. Of course, it's time. Now, the only thing that in reality that money can't buy is freedom of speech. It doesn't matter how rich you are, you can't buy freedom of speech because it doesn't exist. So here's the thing. Telegram was actually used as a medium for Russia and the Ukraine situation, and another war that I'm not going to be getting into on this live show. But we'll stick to the Ukraine and Russia situation. So information was spreading on Telegram, what was actually happening, because the news, CNN and Fox News or whatever type of news channel, the BBC, anything, you can name any news channel, they're all pretty much given a script of what to read and what perspective they should be showing on the news. Now, Telegram was actually being used as a medium to be able to transfer, actual news of what's happening on the grounds between Russia and Ukraine. And obviously, some particular governments and some particular news agencies didn't want that coming out, or some sort of government agencies didn't want the truth coming out of Russia and Ukraine. So Telegram's founder was arrested when he landed in France, because apparently he was told to censor it. He was told to censor the situation that's happening and the information that's spreading from Russia, and essentially what's happening in Russia, what's happening in Ukraine. Pavel was told to censor it, and Pavel decided not to censor it. And then the other war that's going on as well, he's told to censor it, he didn't censor it either. So he said freedom of speech for everybody on my platform, everybody can do whatever they want. So he lands in France and gets arrested, and Ton's platform essentially is affected by this situation right now, because he wanted to offer freedom of speech in Telegram, and it backfired. So as much as Macron wants to go ahead, Emmanuel Macron, he wants to go with the Prime Minister of France, he wants to go ahead and say, I stand by entrepreneurism and I stand by freedom of speech. In reality, he doesn't. He's just another puppet with somebody's hand up his, So because Telegram was used as a medium, this has decided to backfire. Now, the recent examination by French authorities highlights this cautious issue that social media platforms confront in essentially combining freedom of expression with the necessities to prevent unlawful activities. The protest against the arrest of Telegram's founder and CEO Pavel by officials in France is taking a new twist. Now, Russia is also a bit upset about this scenario as well. But not only the Russian government is upset about Pavel's situation, Russian hackers are upset about Pavel's situation. Russian hackers have decided to hack multiple France news channels, multiple France agencies. They're just going at it 24/7, hacking whatever they can that belongs to French authorities, because they arrested Pavel for giving freedom of speech. So the protest against the arrest of Telegram's founder and CEO Pavel by officials in France is taking a new twist, as the government's websites are now under attack. The French government websites are now under attack. With more than 24 hours in custody, the government faces serious repercussions from different hacking groups in Russia who are right now hacking. Multiple cybercrimes are going on right now as we're speaking, with Russian hackers hacking into government, essentially platforms that belong to the French authorities because they arrested Pavel. Now, solidarity for Telegram CEO is what's happening right now in terms of Russia. France government website is down. The French government's website has been going on and off today because of what's been going on, because they arrested Pavel, so the Russian hackers are not letting go. They're seeing it as, this is one of our people, and you've arrested him for freedom of speech, so we're going to retaliate. And pretty much the French government's website has been on and off today. The French agency websites, in terms of news channels, are on and off today. And it's going to continue, apparently, until Pavel is released. It is quite uncommon for how a foreign government to face a heavy attack. So La Parisien reported that at least 2 websites have been powered down completely. These websites include the official government site that essentially archives its current laws and regulations. Additionally, the platform of the National Agency of Safety for Medicines and Health Products, ANSM, was also down due to multiple cyber attacks. Russia to trial cryptocurrency exchanges. The Times also, just to add on more, at the same time that this multiple hacking situation is going on, there's also another situation that's going on as well, which is India in terms of Telegram. India has been the first country to not let its citizens use Telegram's Ton wallets. So this is the first country since Pavel has been arrested. This is the first country that's restricted user access to Telegram's Ton platform on Telegram. So the Telegram wallet, Telegram cryptocurrencies. India has been the first country right now to restrict access to, Telegram users that live in India. So the Times of India revealed that Telegram is under investigation in India following the high-profile arrest of the co-founder Pavel in France. According to a report, the Ministry of Home Affairs, MHA, and the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology are probing the popular messaging platform for instances of gambling, extortion, and other essentially illegal activities. So not only has France arrested Pavel on many multiple accusations. India has now set up a case for Pavel as well. So what's going to happen next? Pavel's going to, after whatever happens in France, he's going to be extradited to India for another separate court case. And then what's going to happen there? He's going to go extradited to another country back to back. So is this just going to pretty much carry on forever of Pavel just being extradited and passed around between all these countries? Most likely it's going to be G20 countries. But it's not looking good for Pavel right now, where India, out of randomness, has decided to also open up a case file on Pavel. Depending on the investigation results, the Telegram app could face a potential ban in India, which has an estimated 104 million users and the world's largest Telegram user base. Conflicting reports from users in India. Individual users' reports have flooded the X social media platform, claiming that they can no longer access the Telegram wallet app in India, which now displays as unsupported region on their messaging screens. Following the arrest of Pavel's CEO, the encrypted messaging service Telegram, the creator and chief executive officer of Rumble, this is how serious the freedom of speech issue is getting. Because Pavel was offering freedom of speech on Telegram, another platform that offers freedom of speech is Rumble. Rumble's CEO was in the EU. After Pavel got arrested for freedom of speech on his platform, Rumble's CEO decided to flee the country. He decided to leave the EU, or flee the entire continent by the looks of it. So the creator and chief executive officer of Rumble, a competitor to YouTube that claims to be immune to cancel culture, said that he had departed from Europe after hearing the news of Pavel because he thinks he's next. He said, "I just returned from Europe safely." The Canadian national Chris made a post on X. He said that by detaining Telegram's Pavel in France and had crossed the red line, that France has crossed the red line and threatened Rumble at the same time. Rumble stated it will appeal the request from the French government to ban certain Russian news sources in November 2022, but the company still barred access to French users. So this Telegram and Ton situation seems to be getting out of control, like major scale getting out of control, because the longer obviously this carries on, the longer this is going to affect Ton, the entire ecosystem that he decided to build up. To add more on top of that, one particular liquidity pool that was a part of Ton's ecosystem decided to drop their bag of Ton and leave the entire ecosystem, and decided to turn their entire Ton bag into USDT and Ethereum and just leave Ton, because they think this situation might carry on further. So this situation is definitely getting out of hand with him being arrested. With the main reason of him being arrested isn't what they're accusing him of. The main reason he's being arrested is not what he's being accused of. The main reason he's being arrested is because he doesn't filter Telegram at all. Like, there is honestly no filtration on Telegram whatsoever. You can pretty much say and do whatever you want on Telegram. And that was a major issue, especially going into today's society where everything is about censorship. Especially going into this digital world, censorship is going to be very important for quite a lot of jurisdictions, pretty much all types of jurisdictions. Censorship is going to be very important. As I said previously, a very long time ago, on this live show, I said every country is en route to become the next China with the whole censorship issue with CBDC, social credit systems. I said, if you want to see where your country is headed, just look at China. Whatever China does and China's movements are is what's going to be happening in other Western countries, in other G20 countries in general. And this is pretty much at the censorship stage, where he was offering too much freedom of speech, pretty much. And they arrested him. They arrested him, charged with some conspiracy type of theories of 12 different crimes he's never committed before. He's pretty much being accused of other people's actions on his platform. So Telegram's founder is being accused of other people's actions on his platform for him not censoring it. But even if he did censor it, it's quite difficult to censor 1 billion people on what they can and can't say. It's still quite difficult. Even when, X was Twitter. Twitter was heavily censored, but people still got away with saying some things. Facebook is heavily censored, but people still get away with saying things. So he's right now being arrested, and he's going to be trialed and be charged for what other people say and do on Telegram, which he has maybe some, sort of knowledge about what was going on, or maybe he doesn't have any sort of knowledge of what was actually going on his platform to a certain extent. But he's being charged for other people's actions on Telegram right now, is what's basically happening. So this is definitely going to be affecting Ton the longer this case goes on. But I mean, the strangeness of this is India coming out of nowhere and piling on top of this scenario and opening up their own case and banning people from using Telegram's wallet for cryptocurrency usage and so on. This is going to be affecting Ton quite a bit. And here's the thing. He has to be, essentially released at one point. He has to be. I mean, 28th is the max they can hold him until. So Pavel can only be held in France max until the 28th. I mean, the max they can hold is 96 hours. So they have to release him after the 28th, unless they charge him with something, and then the 28th extends, and just no one knows what will become next. It could be 2 years before this man is being able to see daylight. But by the 28th, if they don't charge him with anything, they have to release him. So if he gets released, then we're good on the Ton ecosystem. If he doesn't get released and he decides, they decide to drag him down into court battles and trials and try to, essentially hold him in France and so on, this is going to heavily impact Ton's ecosystem. Even though Ton's ecosystem was a brilliant ecosystem, but this is going to definitely affect Ton's ecosystem if they do decide to charge him after the 28th. If they do decide to hold him, if France, holds him after the 28th, they have to charge him with something to be able to hold this man after the 28th. And if they charge him with something, then this is just going to carry on and carry on. And country by country, they're going to restrict access to Telegram. Telegram's 1 billion user base is going to go to zero. Well, not literally to zero, but you know what I mean. 1 billion users. India's the first one. They have 104 million users. That's already gone. If India even goes progressing even more. And then you get other G20 countries involved. They start banning the left, right, and center out of it. And that's it. That's pretty much the end of Ton's ecosystem if it carries. And then Ton will eventually, if it goes down the bad route, because there are two paths that Ton's ecosystem can go right now. There are literally two paths it can go. It can either be Pavel gets released on the 28th and he pays a fine and gets to walk away, and then he starts censoring Telegram. Ton's ecosystem will continue doing well. That's the good path. The good path is he's released on the 28th. He does censorships on Telegram. He pays his fine and he's good to go. The bad route is, so far, apparently it came out that Pavel has decided not to contribute any sort of information to the French authorities, is what's basically came out so far. That Pavel, the founder of Telegram, has decided not to give out any sort of information about what happens on Telegram to French authorities, which is not a good start. So it seems like he's weighing into option number 2. And option number 2 is him getting charged with something, being stuck in France, and G20 countries back-to-back start restricting access to Telegram, which is definitely going to impact the Ton ecosystem, which eventually Ton's ecosystem will become a community project, which means the only people that can revive it is the community, which is a very risky road. Because I'll give you an example. Luna is a community. Luna C, or Luna in general, is a community project as well. How well is that doing? Luna, essentially their CEO and founder, whatever, he was arrested as well. He went down the same path, not freedom of speech, a different path, and then it became a community project. And how well do you think that project is doing? Not too well. So option number 1, Pavel, option number 1, he takes option number 1 and essentially listens to the French authorities, pays a fine, a slap on the wrist, gets to walk away, and some censorship starts happening on Telegram. Option number 2, he doesn't give the French authorities anything. They trial him, they convict him, he could be arrested, pretty much sent to prison, which will affect Ton's ecosystem, which will affect Telegram's user base, because each country, one by one, will start restricting access to Telegram. And that's pretty much it for Telegram and Ton's ecosystem, unless it becomes a community project, which is a very risky road. So those are 2 options of what's going to be happening to Telegram and Ton. Option number 1, easy route. He starts working with them. Option number 2, he goes against them and everything goes south. So let's see which option he is going to be choosing. Are you going to be selling your Ton? I still haven't. because I want to wait until the 28th before I make any sort of decisions. Personally, for me, I haven't sold any of my ton. I'm going to wait until the 28th to see what happens on the 28th. If it goes south on the 20th, I'll make a loss when I'm selling them. If it doesn't go south and it goes on the upside, then I'm okay with holding. But I'm personally going to wait until the 28th to see, is it going to be charged or released? Because if he gets charged, this is going to be a 2, 3, 4 year case battle. And I'm not going through it anymore. All of us already went through that road with Ripple and XRP. And I'm not going to be going through that path with tons. So no chance. If he gets charged, he's going down for 4 years, 5 years. It's going to be a case battle going against him. So hoping 28th comes and he gets out. But there are two paths. There are literally two paths. And do you know what the disappointing thing is? Ton's ecosystem is actually a brilliant ecosystem. Ton's ecosystem was absolutely amazing, and it still can become an absolutely amazing project. It's just a shame that we live in a world where freedom of speech is pretty much non-existent. It's just one big illusion. And now he's arrested. So let's see how far it goes. 28th, we'll have a better idea. On the 28th, we'll have a much more better idea of, is he released or is he charged? If he's released, we're good. If he's charged, this is going to be a 2 to 3 to 4 year case battle. And then every country restricting access to Telegram. And at the same time, the French authorities are put under pressure as well with the Russian hackers, because multiple Russian hacking groups, and Russia has very strong hacking groups, multiple Russian hacking groups are right now putting pressure on the French authorities by hacking their government websites. Right now, multiple Russian hackers are hacking the government agency websites of France. 2 of them are completely down. 2 government agency websites in France is pretty much fully down. The rest are on and off. They're going on and off in terms of coming back online, going back off, going back offline, going off. So France is also being put on pressure right now as well from Russian hacking groups. And the Russian hacking groups are not going to be backing down. They actually said, free Pavel. So in other words, if France doesn't free Pavel, the hacking situation from the Russian hackers is going to be 10 times worse continuing forward for France's authorities. So I don't know if at the same time does the French authorities want to, battle with this massive headache or with the Russian hacking groups? Do they just want to continue battling with these Russian hacking groups at the same time trying to prosecute, Pavel? So there's a lot of pressure put in it. But also, with Rumble's CEO escaping the country as well. He was in the EU. Rumble's CEO was in the EU. And Rumble's CEO said something on the lines of, freedom of speech doesn't exist in the EU. And Pavel's been arrested, free Pavel. Rumble could be next, and he decided to leave the country. So let's see. Let's see how things go. It's either going to be option number 1 for Ton's ecosystem or option number 2. Bilal, good to see you. How you doing? In XRP news, not much, no. How's business, Miles? Is good, Woodhouse. Nice handwriting. Miles, good to see you. How you doing? Messi, good to see you. How you doing? Woodhouse, good to see you, brother. Susan, good to see you. How you doing? How you doing, Susan? When will XRP's ETF drop? When will XRP's ETF drop? We have a while to go to that scenario. Hey, Miles of CMF. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Greetings, Miles of CMF. Lena, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles. Is it a good idea to purchase TON during this turbulence? I would say wait until the 28th. I sold all of my TON today since I was in profit. I didn't want to take a chance and get a loss. Why not? Look, if you are unsure about TON's situation right now and you're thinking about jumping ship, you do have the option to jump ship before the 28th, because the 28th can come around and he gets charged and it will just go. TON's ecosystem would just go down the drain. And at the same time, there is also one, medium to large player inside the TON ecosystem liquidity pool who decided to leave TON. There was one liquidity pool person who was holding quite a huge amount of TON, about $2.4 million. he decided to leave the TON ecosystem liquidity pool, take his TON with him, and he changed his TON to USDT and Ethereum. So one liquidity pool for TON's ecosystem has already left the building. That person wasn't even going to wait for the 28th to come around to see what the judgment is. He decided to just leave the liquidity pool and take his TON with him and sell it off. So some money has exited from the TON ecosystem liquidity pool already. So if you do want to jump out, you don't want to wait until the 28th, that is an option as well. But never panic in situations like this. But if you are sitting in profit and you want to take your profits, taking profits is never a bad idea. If you want to take profits, it's never a bad idea, without a doubt. Never a bad idea if you want to take profits. If you want to wait until the 28th, that's also an option as well. None of this is financial advice at all. I'm personally going to wait till the 28th to see what the verdict is going to be, charged or not charged. Facts, Miles, about Macron. Yeah, Macron is one weasel. Emmanuel Macron is an absolute top weasel. If everybody thought Gary Gensler was, pretty much the worst person on this planet, Gary Gensler was playing some sort of a role as well in that scenario, but Macron is above Gary Gensler in terms of an actual weasel. Go Russia. That's what Messi says. What happens if you ban the apps to my cold wallet and hot wallet? How can I get XRP? How can I get my XRP then? Can I get my XRP through XRP Ledger? Somehow my 12-word freeze. Your 12-word password? Yes. So here's a newsflash for everyone that's holding cryptocurrencies. So let's say, you want access to your crypto wallet. You want access to your hot wallet or cold wallet. And for example, a hot wallet or a cold wallet platform that you're using no longer works because it's restricted in your country. How do you get access? For example, let's just say, for example, in this scenario, Trust Wallet gets compromised, or essentially, let's say Ledger. Your Ledger applications don't work anymore, for example. You can take your passphrases and go to a different platform, another cold wallet, and type them in, and it will give access to your wallets again. It doesn't have to be a Ledger device. It can be any type of device. You can just type it in, and you will get access to your wallets again. So don't worry if the app that you're using for your hot wallets and cold wallets suddenly don't work. As long as you have the passphrases, you can use a different platform to be able to log in. I feel like this is going south quickly. Seems like it, but we have to wait until the 28th. But yeah, but there are only two options. As I said, the two options, I laid them out. One, Pavel agrees with French authorities, starts essentially censoring and so on. Or option number two, he doesn't cooperate with the French authorities, and this just goes into 4-year case battle. And TON's ecosystem becomes a community project, which is the worst thing that could possibly happen. Zuckerberg is walking free. Yep, and Zuckerberg is part of the circle. That's the only reason he gets to walk away free. Pavel's not part of the circle. He just has money. He's getting treated like a scapegoat to let everybody else know if they don't apply, this is what's going to happen to them. Hence, Rumble, TON will bounce back. I believe so as well, but we have to wait until 28th. But I believe so as well. Never make any sort of movements when you're in some sort of... Never panic, first of all. Never make some sort of... That's why I've rationalized it, and I've put 4 outcomes. 2 outcomes of where it could go, and 2 outcomes of what I'm going to be doing on the 28th. So always rationalize your movements, put outcomes in front of you of what it could possibly go towards. If they're so paranoid about what people say, why did he even allow Telegram to begin in the first place when they knew their platform was freedom? Will price drop if he gets charged? Yes. If he gets charged, if Pavel actually gets charged, genuinely charged, then yes, it's definitely going to affect the price of TON's ecosystem. Any XRP news? None so far, but we have still quite a bit of news to go. Also, to add on this situation as well, regarding the Pavel situation, Tether's CEO has decided to come out and say freedom of speech does not exist in Europe. And he's actually telling people to leave the continent of Europe. Tether's CEO is still quite bitter about the EU for not letting him, have USDT operational in the EU in terms of the MiC regulations. So with Elon Musk, with essentially multiple CEOs and executives all putting #FreePavel, Tether's CEO has decided to jump on the bandwagon as well, and he's telling everyone to pretty much leave the EU and go to El Salvador. Not even joking about this one. So Tether's CEO, Paulo, promotes essentially El Salvador as a European freedom place for all European citizens to escape to. Tether's CEO wants people to move to El Salvador after the arrest of the Telegram founder Pavel in France. On the next post, Tether's CEO said Europe is gradually sliding into the dark ages with its anti-free speech policies. The crypto executive quoted a post from El Salvador's president, who called on the people to migrate to his country and described it as the safest in the Western Hemisphere. The president of El Salvador, the crypto-friendly policies have turned the Central American country into a crypto investor utopia. Move to El Salvador. Europe is losing its values. Not even joking. This is what's going on right now. This Telegram situation has just been, the Telegram situation was this big, and now it's just expanded into other countries and other jurisdictions and presidents and prime ministers. Everybody's getting involved now. According to Tether's essentially CEO, Europe has been criticizing El Salvador for years as an anti-democracy and anti-freedom state, but it is now the continent that is falling to protect individual liberties. His comments echoed the criticism of several others since Pavel's arrest. So the French authorities used to call El Salvador a place with no freedom of speech, no human rights, but now the tables have turned. El Salvador has freedom of speech, freedom of rights, and so on, and the EU is pretty much restrictive. French authorities arrested Pavel for failing to control Telegram's use for illegal activities, ranging from multiple illicit activities. The social media platform reportedly refused to moderate user content. However, many consider this attempt by the government to censor the platform's operations and therefore an infringement of freedom of rights and freedom of speech. It appears that Tether's CEO also agrees with this view. On an X post, this is what Tether's CEO posted. Europe has obnoxiously essentially criticized El Salvador in the past few years, and yet today it feels that once the candle of freedom and democracy is slowly falling into the dark ages again. Meanwhile, the president of El Salvador also took a swipe at the European authorities. El Salvador's president is getting involved in this Telegram situation right now, with him being arrested, Telegram's founder being arrested. El Salvador's president also got involved on X, and he also took a swipe at the European authorities on an X post, saying, El Salvador is the ideal place for anyone looking for safety and freedom. He claimed the country is the safest in the West Hemisphere, with freedom of speech and no property tax. This is what he said exactly word for word. El Salvador is not only the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, but we also guarantee that you won't be arrested or censored or have your assets seized or you're exercising your rights to freedom of speech. So El Salvador's president is naming some quite valuable things that every human being should have. In other words, him mentioning that your assets won't be seized if you live in El Salvador. Your freedom of speech will still exist in El Salvador. Your freedom of rights will exist in El Salvador, unlike the EU with the Pavel situation. The post has attracted a praise from many within the crypto community who point out to the country as an example of a perfectly run state that others should aspire to become, like El Salvador. Elon Musk described the president of El Salvador as awesome. El Salvador's president attracts the crypto community to El Salvador, but what next? Foreign interest in El Salvador has soared since the president became Bukele. His policies have focused on making the country a crypto haven and attracting crypto holders to live there. These pro-crypto policies, including making BTC, Bitcoin, a legal tender, buying and holding Bitcoin, and launching a $1 billion Bitcoin bond, have put him on the loggerheads of international organizations, such as International Monetary Fund. Local opponents and foreign critics also claim he is turning the country into a one-party state and cracking down on disasters. However, many inside the crypto community are essentially uncensored about this, as they focus more on his crypto-friendly policies and the stability his tenure has brought to the country. With his tenure set to end in 2029, Many are concerned that this successor may not continue with his pro-Bitcoin policies. So many are concerned that when this man leaves his presidency, who will take over next to continue this path in El Salvador? Bitcoin developer Luke believes the solution is for Boko to abolish the elections. The only solution for El Salvador to continue being a crypto-friendly nation and have freedom of rights, freedom of speech, and so on, is to abolish the elections. He states, continuing of leadership, no doubt, plays a large part in stability of some of the best nations in history, and democracy is overrated. So the Telegram situation has definitely been boasted out of proportion, but I fully understand why. Freedom of speech is on the line, human rights is on the line. This Pavel situation is much more bigger than him just being arrested. But everybody's getting involved. India is restricting access to Telegram wallets, and they're opening up a case file against Pavel. President of El Salvador is getting involved and saying everybody move to El Salvador is better than the EU. Russian hackers are hacking the French authorities' government websites because they're putting hashtag, free Pavel. They want Pavel out of the French authorities, so the Russian hackers are hacking government agencies in France. Putin is quite a bit frustrated as well that a Russian citizen is stuck in France and the French authorities are not responding to the embassy in Russia. So quite a lot of things is happening right now regarding Pavel's situation, and all of this is affecting the Ton ecosystem. And with Tether's CEO also jumping on the bandwagon and Rumble's CEO escaping the EU because he thinks he's next, because he offers freedom of speech as well on Rumble, so he thinks he's next. A lot of things are actually happening. This Pavel situation has opened up a ripple effect. An actual ripple effect has been opened up by this whole Pavel situation, where people are escaping the EU, people are hacking the EU, other countries are getting involved, opening case files, countries are offering citizens to join their country. And all of this is just affecting the Ton ecosystem. This is blowing out of proportion quite a lot right now. Joe, good to see how you doing. Evening. Will the price drop if he gets charged? Should do if he gets charged, yes. 28th being tomorrow or next month, 28th. Tomorrow. 28th tomorrow. So Elon not nervous. So Elon's not nervous about freedom of speech. No. Elon Musk is providing something to the circle, which is lifespan. Elon Musk is going to provide lifespan to people inside the circle. So obviously they're not going to be getting rid of Elon Musk. The most important thing is for these wealthy, rich people that control the world, pretty much. The most important thing for these wealthy people that control the entire world is being able to live longer. Because even they know that when they die, one, they don't take anything with them, and two, they have to answer for all the disastrous events they brought on this planet. So to all the wealthy families, all the World Economic Forum members and so on, to Bill Gates, the Melinda Foundation and so on, to all of these people, the most important thing is being able to live longer, to have a longer lifespan, because all of these wealthy, rich people that are controlling the world, that are bringing so much hate and damage and so on, the most important thing to these people is being able to live longer, because, even they know when they go to the other side, they have to answer for all of the situations they caused on this planet, for all the harm they brought on everyone. And they don't want to answer for any of those crimes, so they want to live longer. Who can offer them to live longer? Elon Musk. So are they going to touch Elon Musk? Not really. He's the only man that's going to be able to expand their lifespan. This this neuro chip that he's creating is going to be able to expand their lifespan. So eventually, he's the only man that can prevent them from dying. So that's the most important thing to these people, because they know when they die, they have to give an answer to everything they caused, all the damage they caused, all the hate they caused on people, all the harmfulness. They have to answer to all of those things. And they're not prepared. So they want to live longer. Who can make them live longer? Elon. So Elon's good to go. So Elon's part of the circle. I'm thinking of cutting my losses and jumping ship, and then buying back much later. It's an option. Shelly, if you want to do that, it is definitely an option if you want to do that. Because 28th could come around and he could be charged, and this just goes even more south. Good morning, Professor Miles, and the rest of the family. Frankie, very good to see you. How you doing? Sorry I'm late. What have I missed? Quite a bit on the Pavel situation. But we'll do it just at the end as well. What if they ban all the platforms and apps? How can I get my XRP then? How can I get my XRP through DeFi somehow? You can, yes. If that time comes, I'll show you a way. I heard the order to arrest him come from the other side of Atlantic. I opened 100x leverage short on Ton. Chill Zone just opened up a 100x leverage short on Ton for the 28th. You getting prepared? It could go the other way as well. You never know. He can be released on the 28th and it just goes back to normal. I'm sure El Salvador will like all the spending they do there. Can I get my XRP pass? By the way, I'm reading everybody's comments one by one. So if you have put a comment down, I'm going to read your comments. Right now, I'm on Susan's comment. Actually, I'm on Messi's comment, which says, can I get my XRP through XRP Ledger with my password on a paper wallet? Yes. I'm sure El Salvador will like all the spending that they do there. Yes. Facts. Can't Ton network progress without him? Ton's network can progress without him. It will become a community, essentially, platform. Community platforms are not that effective when you're going into a institutional concept. They tend to, get left behind eventually. I don't know what Tether is talking about because he's going to be the next one. The Telegram incident is, it's going to look nothing like after Tether gets arrested. It's going to look like nothing after. When Tether is essentially CEO gets arrested, I'm just going to be an absolute mess. Tether's CEO getting arrested will pretty much be the worst one for the crypto market in terms of an impact. I mean, Tether's CEO has printed so much USDT on Tron, and Justin Sun not being on the United States' good books, and Justin Sun has been looked into multiple times for many years for conspiracy of money laundering and so many other situations. So Tether's timing is going to be coming to an end as well very soon. Hello, what are your thoughts, Rachel? How you doing? What are your thoughts on Ledger Flex? If you want to get it, I mean, the normal Ledger is also good as well, if you want to do that. The only difference is, I mean, it's just a screen, it's just a little bit of a bigger screen that you can use if you want to go for it, but it's not. I would say it's a waste of money. Even the normal Ledger will do the job, but you still can go for it. Tether, Leafer, I'm talking about texting through my car again. Happy Pisces, good to see you. How you doing? But for example, Rachel, I have, so this is the one I have, the Flex, and it came after 2.5 years. So I pre-ordered the Ledger Flex, and it came after 2.5 years. And I mean, I brought it at a good price because I got mine on pre-order, but it's like this. But now it's more expensive. But the normal Ledger will do the job as well. But still good quality build. The normal, what's a good wallet? Tangem. Ledger is good as well, but Tangem is an excellent wallet as well. What cold wallets do you use? Quite multiple wallets I use. Tangem, Ledger, a few Tangems, a few Ledgers actually. They can't catch Elon Musk. He ran to Mars. Only if they believe in the afterlife and God. Trust me, they do. Miles, how can Elon Musk prolong lifespan? Only God has control over your life and death, health and wealth, and the people. These people are deluded. Well, their deluded minds are only towards one section. You don't have to say long or short, but you will trade on Ton. I don't have to say long or short on Ton, but would I trade on Ton? Yes, I'm probably going to be trading on Ton. But it's the 28th. You know, I have to see what happens on the 28th. Is he going to be charged? Is he not going to be charged? Is he going to be released? Is what really matters of me knowing what my next movements are. Because I can go in with speculation and put a short down, and he might be released and might just react the opposite way. Or, you know, it can go either way. If they arrest Brad, how much would that affect Ripple and XRP? Not like a ton, I believe. No. Well, it would affect XRP quite a bit if Brad gets arrested. Depends on what the charges are. Very hypothetical scenario. He's not being arrested. Brad is never going to get arrested. Very hypothetical scenario. But depends on what the charges are. You've got to realize, depends on what the charges are. If the charges are related to money laundering, then it affects it in a financial type of way, which means that money could have, you know, essentially swayed into that particular crypto project as well. So it depends on what the charges are to how effective it's going to be of a pressure on the crypto project. If the charges are not relatable to any sort of financial situation, then it'll just be a little bit down in, you know, it could climb up and become a community project. If the charges are, you know, essentially money laundering or so on and so on, is, you know, reflective of some sort of money type of scenarios, then they're going to be looking into the assets of, you know, essentially how Ton operates and how Ton's ecosystem is, how much money has been money laundering, and that's when it opens the floodgates of more losses. So it depends on what the charges are. What wallets do you use? Well, those ones, thank you. No problem, Rachel. Anytime. 100%. He will be charged. I love Ebletin Titan wallet. Let's go. Best. I just read Shelly's comment. That's why it made me laugh. But there's a few comments on top of Shelly's. But Shelly's comment says Miles is sitting on the fence again, but secretly putting down a short. Lol. I thought about it so many times to put a short down. 20th might come around, he might get charged, or they might hold him longer. But let's see. But also, if anybody does want to buy a Tangent wallet, I am sponsored by Tangent. I'm an affiliate of Tangent as well on this live show. And you can use crypto miles to get 10% off your Tangent wallets. Not financial advice in any sort of a way, but I am sponsored by them. So you can use code crypto miles and get 10% off on Tangent wallets. Thank you for that, Funky Brother, for reminding me. Best wallets to use are Tangent and SkuX, is what Funky Brother says. Let's go. If the Russian hackers are giving the French too much hassle and getting too much information, they're just going to let him go and release him. Or a helicopter accident situation. Yeah, but the price reacts too fast to the news. No time to react. It's true, but still have to see. You go the other way. You could go either way. You could go either way right now. You can put which side you think is going to go down. Miles, if Shelly's comment still makes me laugh. If you buy Tangent, then mention Crypto Miles to get 10% discount. Let's go, Funky Brother. Your poker face doesn't fool me. Your poker face doesn't fool me. Have I put a short down on Ton? Not as of now. No, I haven't put a short down on Ton. House, I'm just back at my place while I was getting out of my car. I just wanted to be so in the comments about caviar and champagne. Let's go, Happy Pisces. He will be in jail at least 2 years, is what JP is saying. Miles, Shelly is right. We can read you now. You can read me now. I think the CMF knows each other for too long when the CMF members can now read me. But I haven't put a short down on Ton. Why does everybody assume I've put a short down on Ton? There's no short on Ton for now. But no, if I do put a short down on Ton, I will obviously let everyone know inside Telegram group. I'm putting a short down on Ton. Let me put this in charge. But no, for now, there's no short on Ton. But it is an option. It's genuinely an option if you want to go for it. 20th can come around, or just tomorrow, and he's charged. And it goes more down. But no short so far. Miles will never get the off the fence. Miles will never get off the fence. He will be in jail for his 2 years. Miles, Shelly's over. Can read now. I said Oh, I said send Pavel a case of caviar with a case of Italian Prosecco with a note saying champagne is overrated. Could do, yeah. Now, moving on from this whole Telegram situation, Ton ecosystem situation, to China. China is pumping up their AI because we still have China to talk about. We have Russia to talk about, and we have India to talk about still. We have Hong Kong to talk about, the UK still to talk about as well on this live show. So moving on to China now. China's tech titans ramp up AI investments in response to US sanctions. China's major technology firms have significantly ramped up their capital expenditure this year, with a sharp focus on artificial intelligence infrastructures. The Financial Times reported that Alibaba, Tencent, and Baidu alone have spent RMB 50 billion, which is about $7 billion. $7 billion so far China has invested, well, these firms in China have invested into AI technology to be able to compete with the US markets and overtake them in terms of AI. This is up from the RMB of $23 billion in the same period last year. These companies are essentially directing their investments towards the acquisition of processes and the construction of structures needed for training in terms of AI for LLMs. Alibaba ramps up AI expenditures and explains strategy. For instance, Alibaba Group has dedicated a good percentage of their company's resources to further developments of AI. The company's capital expenditures stood at RMB $23 billion in the first half of the year, which was 123% higher than the same period last year. Alibaba's chief Eddie Wu said that the company is escalating its investments in artificial intelligence research and development to meet the increasing client needs. According to Wu, once a server is up and running, it is immediately fully utilized, while expecting of high ROI in the subsequent essentially quarters. We'll continue to invest in R&D and AI CapEx. These are the two companies they're investing into to ensure the growth of our AI-driven cloud businesses. Now, they are also involved in a few blockchain projects as well, Alibaba, in terms of AI. TikTok's parent company, ByteDance. ByteDance has also been increasing its investments in AI projects. ByteDance has a large cash reserve of over $50 billion and is a privately held company that gives more freedom than its public counterparts. When it comes to investor pressure, this is different from publicly traded firms, which usually essentially under more pressure to explain spending to shareholders. Chinese firms navigate US export controls on AI chips. The increase in Chinese tech companies' AI investments take place at a time when the US export controls essentially are becoming more restrictive. These sanctions have limited the availability of the latest Nevada chips, including the H100 and the Blackwell series, which are slated for near future. However, Chinese companies were able to find a solution by acquiring less powerful processors, such as the Nevada's H20s, that are in the line with restrictions set by Washington. These chips are built in such a way that they do not surpass the limits of the computing power permitted by the US government. However, the Chinese tech companies are still expanding their investments in the AI technologies. Alibaba's cloud business has been growing. Revenues of the company in the second quarter of this year were up 6% when compared to the same period last year. Furthermore, the revenues from products related to AI have increased by more than double on year, which shows that they have chosen the right investment strategy in China. Alibaba's investment strategy includes funding Chinese AI startups. In February, the company spent almost $800 million on AI startups, Moonshoot, where a large part of the funding was in form of cloud service vouchers. So China being very restrictive from being able to buy top-of-the-range AI chips from the United States. The US will sell their old AI chips to China, but not their new ones, because they don't want China to get too much control of the AI market. So they're selling China their scrap parts, basically, while the US gets to keep their more advanced AI chips to move forward. So China's not having it, and they're doubling up their investments on AI projects. More AI startup companies are coming out of China as well, and they're ramping up progress. 123% is up by now. which is quite ridiculous. $7 billion, $7 billion US dollars so far has been invested in China this year on AI projects. So far. Now, India. India is a country that has launched quite well into CBDCs, just like any other G20 country that's aiming to become a CBDC country as well. India has reached a number of 5 million users so far with their CBDC. Now, they don't want to push it onto everybody straight away. They want to grow slowly so they can see what the progress is, if there's any bugs in the system before they go on a much more larger scale. India's Reserve Bank is making steady progress in its retail central bank, digital currency CBDC. With over 5 million users and participation from 16 banks in India, while the central bank maintains a cautious approach to ensure a smooth rollout, the pilot success demonstrates the potential of a CBDC to revolutionize the financial market space of India. Speaking at a conference in India, it highlighted the importance of avoiding a rush to implement a system-wide CBDC before thoroughly assessing its effects on the users, monetary policy, and the financial system and the economy in India. He suggested a phased introduction to allow for a more controlled and informed rollout. The RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, has been actively exploring additional features for its CBDC, including offline payments and programmability. The programmability of CBDCs is seizing, freezing assets, and expiry dates. These features are being tested in pilot programs to assess their potential benefits for governments, not for the retail section, such as enhancing financial inclusion, listing targeted and fund delivery. This deliberate pace is a testament to the central bank's commitment to responsible innovation. The pilot program has already yielded promising results with features like offline payments and programmability showing great potential for India's CBDC. For example, the use of CBDCs for farmers to generate carbon credits can enhance financial inclusion and support sustainable agriculture practices. Carbon credits is another way of saying essentially social credit systems, because companies also have an ESG number as well, but that's also going to be coming into people as well by the title of social credit systems or carbon credits in this scenario. As the RBI continues to explore new use cases and refine the CBDC, it is clear that India is at the forefront of CBDC's development. This country's cautious yet progressive approach bodies well for the future of digital currencies and the potential to transform financial services. As I've said before, if you don't want to be the person that's stuck with everyone will get CBDCs. But there's two ways you can go about with CBDCs. You can either be the person just holding CBDCs, or you can be the person that's holding CBDCs and also profiting from CBDCs. Because CBDCs will happen either way. Whether people like it or not, CBDCs will happen. I made an analogy yesterday on this live show from Joseph Stalin, where the chicken analogy that I gave, no matter what, CBDCs will happen. 90% of central banks are already in CBDCs, testing, research stages, and so on, implementation stages. 90% of centralized banks. So your two options are either be the one just holding CBDCs or the one holding CBDCs and profiting from CBDCs, which is XRP. Now, Dubai's Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority is also another one as well. So Dubai is right now trying to take over the entire global ecosystem. So moving on from the Indian news, and now we're going to Dubai's news. Dubai's Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority, VARA, prepares for VASPs for the global ecosystem. The UAE has become a center for virtual asset regulations, and VASPs, virtual asset service providers. The journey has begun with the launch of Dubai's VARA, which is Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority. As the Web3 and crypto scenes continue to grow in the UAE, VARA has increasingly essentially emphasized the compliance requirements. Recently, VARA has appointed Sean McCain as the Senior Director of Market Assurance, underscoring their ongoing focus on ensuring that VARA's license adherence to the highest compliance standards. Recently interviewed Sean McCain to learn more about the role of VARA and the importance of compliance with Dubai's regulatory. So Dubai's regulator has done an interview of what the progress is in the UAE, how far have they gone so far in terms of regulations in the UAE for cryptocurrencies, Web3, AI technology, cross-border payments, and so on. So this is the interview. McCain is no stranger to the financial and compliance scene, Prior to joining VARA in the UAE, he held several positions, including his role as the Global Chief Compliance Officer for Seattle Advisors, where he oversees comprehensive compliance programs across various financial domains. He also served as the head of international compliance and head of Asia-Pacific compliance for Goldman Sachs, where he spent 20 years retiring as a partner. McCain began his career as a regulator at the FINRA, Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. In his experience spanning both internal compliance and regulatory frameworks that attracted the VARA to Sean in the first place. The value of McCain brings will be pivotal to enhancing VRA's market assurance capabilities and strengthening industry standards in the UAE. Compliance is different between digital assets and traditional finance. In our first question to McCain, we asked if there were any differences or similarities between compliance and digital assets, the realm, and the traditional financial market space. In his reply, McCain stated, "In my lifetime of regulating traditional finance, and my start at the FINRA, I witnessed the evolution as a certain business and activities went from being unregulated to regulated, and today Tradeify is more mature across the board, not only in a mature market, but globally. In contrast, the digital asset space is still evolving with technology regulation and compliance programs changing as business models and products change." He added that it is interesting how technology and regulatory compliance programs are more closely linked in dealing with virtual assets than Tradeify and TransFirewalls. Why the VRA and not other regulatory authorities? Why did Dubai or the UAE have to create their own new government body, or essentially to take over the entire crypto space? Why couldn't the traditional government agencies in Dubai or the UAE take over the crypto space and bring out regulations? Why did they have to create an entire new agency? McCain was particularly attracted to the VRA because it was the first dedicated regulator in the virtual asset space. He explained Dubai is at the forefront of developing a broader ecosystem for the digital finance globally. They are good at developing new businesses in Dubai and focusing on achieving their goals. VRA is not reactive. On the contrary, it is very proactive and engaging ecosystem. While essentially comparing regulators is not like comparing apples to apples, McCain notes that unlike other regulators, the VRA's sole focus is on virtual assets. He highlighted how the VRA divides into the details of how compliance programs are set for the VASPs, especially concerning customer protection, AML, anti-money laundering, and the financial soundness of the ecosystem. However, he points at the compliance programs of the VASPs and VRAs to meet the highest possible international standards due to the stringent standards imposed on them. VASP's passporting in VRA is vital. While the term passporting was originally used in the financial sector to describe how financial firms could either passport in or out of products and services between countries, this terminology is now being adapted for VASPs, for the digital world. VRAs has repeatedly essentially emphasized the importance of passporting. McCain explained at the VRA, we want to ensure we are good at engagements with regulators across the boards, sharing notes on how they can handle digital assets, holding bilateral discussions, and forming committees so that we can help our VASPs seamlessly passport multiple jurisdictions. Comparing it to the traditional financial business space, where big players operating globally across different jurisdictions with varying levels of regulation, McCain is making sure that the VASPs and the VRAs can operate anywhere, even though in some instances they might need to obtain essentially additional licensings. He explained we ensure that they have the right AML standards, anti-money laundering, and customer protection, making them transportable in any other jurisdiction in the UAE. For VRA, where it's a global VACP, and to have been regulated within the VRA in our homegrown countries or scrutinized with the same standards depending on the businesses they run and the clients they serve, he added, we don't expect other regulators to look at our standards, but we hold ourselves to the highest standards. Dubai in general, the UAE is introducing some sort of new licensing, where this licensing can apply to this crypto firm in multiple jurisdictions, even outside the UAE, where this particular crypto exchange or crypto platform or crypto project can have a Dubai sort of license. or a UAE sort of license, a crypto license, where they can use this crypto license in multiple jurisdictions with no issues, and they don't need to apply for separate licensings. It's sort of like that G20 situation where they're all under the same declaration. The compliance requirements at the VRA are stringent. VRA as a regulator is consistently seeking good governance models and strong compliance cultures and programs. McCain explained that there is a lot of back and forth during the licensing progress because we want this license to mean something. So we have a pretty high standard and a lot of burden falls on the VASP that is applying. The future of VASP ecosystem will include DeFi. Circling back to the strong connection between technology, regulation, and compliance. The fast pace of technological advancements is driving advancements in compliance. McCain explained that DeFi platforms are approaching us early on, and we are VRA and can tell them how VRA views their business models and activities. He concluded, today, DeFi smart contracts are equipped with technologies such as AML, anti-money laundering, and KYC applications. Know your customer. And given that we don't want to be reactive, we have gotten a lot of engagement at this forefront. The DeFi and other VASAPs want to be regulated and licensed, and we are ready to facilitate that. Dubai the UAE in general is achieving quite incredible things. They're keeping themselves at a high standard. They're issuing some sort of a license that can apply to many jurisdictions, that this crypto platform, crypto project, or so on, can use this license in other jurisdictions, which basically makes other jurisdictions' jobs 10 times easier. Because instead of every jurisdiction going through the rule book and saying this will work, this won't work, this will work, that this won't work, Dubai or the UAE is doing all of that for them. They're going through the regulations. They're going through what works, what doesn't work, what will work with the digital space connecting to the traditional financial market, and what doesn't. So the UAE is doing all of that pretty much for every other jurisdiction around the world. So when the time comes, they can just follow their footpath, and one licensing will apply to all, which I think is a brilliant move because it makes life 10 times easier. It makes, the innovation and progress part move 10 times faster, and they can get rid of Gary Gensler. If they could just squeeze that in one part of the, regulation, get rid of Gary Gensler, things will also be moving 10 times faster. But what they're trying to do is amazing. It makes things move 10 times faster without a doubt. So love to see the progress that's happening out of the UAE. Absolutely amazing, my point of view. Absolutely amazing. Now, moving on from India and Dubai, the UAE, to China again. The yuan this time. The yuan and SWIFT is what we're going to talk about. The internalization of the yuan is striking. The internalization of yuan is progressing much more faster than what the figures from the company SWIFT suggested. SWIFT suggested a long time ago that the yuan cannot progress that quickly and that crypto cannot progress that quickly, is what SWIFT said a long time ago. SWIFT came out basically a very long time ago and said Bitcoin is useless, cryptocurrencies make no sense, they're all Ponzi schemes, and they're never going to catch up to the financial system, and neither is the yuan. All of that is absolutely backfiring completely. I mean, USDT is doing more volume, genuinely, USDT is doing more volume than MasterCard and Visa put together, just for perspective. But the internalization of the yuan is progressing much faster than what the figures from the company SWIFT suggested. The decline of the SWIFT network, the company SWIFT dominates most international banking transactions. More than 11,000 financial institutions in over 200 countries and territories use its services. It is responsible for the standardization that underpins international financial messaging. Both private banks and central banks, as well as the financial markets, use its messaging system to conduct their transactions. They use SWIFT. The yuan is currently the fourth most used currency through the SWIFT networks. And SWIFT essentially being for Society for Worldwide Interbanking Financial Telecommunications. Its share has remained above 4% on the 9th consecutive month, 4.75% to be compared with the 7% of the British pounds, and the 22% of the euros, 22.50% of the euros, and the 47.80% of the United States. Its shares is 3.32% concerning international payments only. It is 12.80% for the euro, excluding payments between Eurozone countries, and 59.46% for the dollars. In short, figures that are hardly impressive nevertheless. The SWIFT network is no longer a monopoly. The militarization of the SWIFT network, the euro and the dollar against Russia, has caused a cold reaction from the BRICS countries. I said this in 2023 and in 2024. I said this, the exact words. My exact words were, SWIFT is not a financial tool. It's a political tool. The biggest issue with SWIFT is not that it's slow and expensive, because they've been using for a very long time. They couldn't care less. The biggest issue to SWIFT is that it's a political tool that can essentially restrict a country from being able to do transactions, restrict a country's banks, private banks, public banks, centralized banks, for being able to do transactions, which can damage that country's economy in the long term. Biggest issue with SWIFT was never because it was slow and expensive. That's an issue, but not the biggest issue. The biggest issue was it's a political tool that goes around and sanctions countries from being able to do payment transactions. That is the downfall of SWIFT. And no matter what SWIFT does, no matter which platform SWIFT decides to essentially join, no country is going to be able to trust SWIFT after what they've done to Russia. Because SWIFT did restrict quite a lot of countries even before Russia, but nobody could care less. If they restricted essentially Russia, it means that China's pretty much next, and so on and so on and so on. It's just going to continue like a ripple effect of countries being restricted to be able to use payments. So the biggest downfall of SWIFT is not that it's slow and expensive, as I've said previously, is that it's not a payment tool, it's a political tool. And that's what the biggest downfall of SWIFT is. And it will fall because it's a political tool. And countries are scared that one day they can also be sanctioned as well. But you know why they like DeFi? Because you can't get sanctioned on DeFi. So, the news coming out a very while ago, SWIFT partners with Chainlink, and everybody was, jumping up and down going, this is absolutely amazing. This is great for Chainlink. I hold Chainlink. Chainlink, excellent project. Nothing wrong with Chainlink. Incredible project. But even Chainlink can't save SWIFT, because SWIFT, it just carries that bad message of sanctions. And it doesn't matter who SWIFT partners with, sanctions will always follow it. And therefore, no country wants to use it eventually. Because it's a political tool, not a payment tool. The use of the yuan has been on the rise since Russia. So this is why essentially the militarization of the SWIFT network. So right now, they're starting to realize, they're coming out on the news and saying SWIFT is a political tool. They've just started to realize this scenario. Many countries are reverting to their own currencies while turning to new international payments because of this political situation of SWIFT. The use of the yuan has been on the rise since Russia was disconnected from the SWIFT network. Sino-Russian trade, $240 billion a year, now takes place almost exclusively in yuan or rubles. The internalization of the yuan is a reality. Let's remember that Xi Jinping has publicly invited Gulf countries to sell their oils in yuan through the Shanghai markets, knowing that Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates have just joined the BRICS as well. The Chinese equivalents of the SWIFT network. And by the way, I've said this multiple times, BRICS is not about a collective of basket of countries coming together to work. It's about China. This is about the US losing control and China gaining control. It's got nothing to do with BRICS and everybody using the national currencies. It's about US losing control, China gains control. It's about who do you want to be under? You want to be under the US or do you want to be under China? The Chinese equivalents of the SWIFT network, the transaction volumes of the Chinese cross-border payments, CIPS, was 123 trillion yuan in 2023, which is about $17 trillion was processed in yuan. This represents a year-on-year increase of 27% of the Chinese payment system, the CPIS. This figure is expected to double this year, equivalent to $34 trillion in yuan, to be compared with the $150 trillion traded through the SWIFT network. The CIPS system has now has 150 direct participants. The Chinese payment system that goes against SWIFT now has 150 direct participants and 1,401 indirect participants. They are spread across 117 countries and regions and can cover up to 184 countries and regions through more than 4,700 banks. In short, the yuan's share in global exchanges is well over 4.75%. It is actually much more closer to 20%. No surprise when you consider that China's shares in global trade is around 17%. Not to mention that China's GDP surpasses of the United States at purchasing power parity. CIPS is gaining ground thanks to its currency swaps. 44 countries have benefited from these swaps, amounting to more than $500 billion. Therefore, more than 53% of China's trade is now conducted in yuan. The dollar's share has fallen to 43% compared to 83% in 2010. Even the International Monetary Fund has recently noted that the use of the yuan in cross-border payments has increased from 0% in 2014 to 20% in 2021, based on a sample of 125 countries. A quarter of these countries predominantly use the yuan to trade with China. There is no suggestion that the Chinese government is changing its stance on Bitcoin as well. That said, Hong Kong Bitcoin ETFs have appeared a good sign. It's a great Russian ally, is much moving faster as well. Russia is also moving quite fast in terms of regulation of cryptocurrencies for cross-border payments because SWIFT is no longer the option. The Duma and the Russian central banks have just authorized 2 platforms that will allow companies to conduct cross-border transactions in Bitcoin. The framework remains experimental, but we can bet that the success will be resounding. The service will initially be limited to large export and import companies. By the way, several media outlets have falsely talked about stablecoins backed by the ruble and the yuan. It also does not appear that this experimental framework concerns CBDCs. First, scared governments are realizing that Bitcoin is not a threat and that the world has never gone backwards from technological breakthroughs, and that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is a universal payment network that is also a currency existing in an absolute fiat in terms of quantity, 2 in 1. There will be no turning back. Even the United States is beginning to recognize that sooner or later, it will become the international reserve currency bar of excellence in terms of cryptocurrencies. Donald Trump has already announced that the creation of a strict Bitcoin reserve is the case for re-election. We will potentially be taking over the reserve of 1 million BTCs. Trump knows that the process of de-dollarization is going to be happening no matter what. The BRICS will not turn back. The world needs a stateless and non-sensible currency that grants no privilege to any participant, to any particular nation. So, China is growing massively by the looks of it. The numbers are there, they are actually growing incredibly, even to the International Monetary Fund. So the International Monetary Fund stepping in, saying China was doing pretty much 0% in terms of trade volumes with the Russian ruble back in 2014, and then now 20% up in 2021, and is just climbing year on year. And China stating themselves that they're pretty much an increase of 27% happening year on year. Of many countries deciding to move away from SWIFT and deciding to go into their own national currencies, all using Chinese yuan. But again, this is not about national currencies. This is not about BRICS, of collective of national currencies, baskets, and so on. No. The world is right now going through a control change, and it's not good. The control change is that the US is losing grip of the financial markets, which means another dominating currency is going to start taking over. And don't be fooled by BRICS's peace talk speech of national currencies. Everybody's currency matters. Don't live in la la land. This is the financial markets. It's about power and greed, pretty much. So one currency is going to be dominating at the end. And if it's not going to be the US dollar, it's not going to be a collective basket of currencies either. It's going to be the Chinese yuan. So it's either the US controls the financial markets or China does. China's not a great option either to be controlling any sort of financial markets. If you think your countries right now in the West are bad in terms of freedom of speech, in China, it's about 10 times worse. You can't use... right now, people are distorted you can't use Telegram, we can't use Telegram. And people are, essentially thinking about it. Oh, people are panicking on social media in terms of we can't use Telegram, no more freedom of speech in the EU. People can't even use Google in China. People can't even use YouTube in China unless they use some sort of VPN and pretty much maybe get a fine later on if they find out they've been using Google. So people right now inside of the EU are thinking to themselves, Telegram has been arrested, founder of Telegram has been arrested. There's no freedom of speech in the EU. And that's a big issue as we see it. But in China, they can't even use Google. That's how restrictive it is. Forget about social media platforms. They can't use Google. They can't use a search engine. They can't even use YouTube. They have to have their own platforms, their own government type of platforms. They can use them through VPNs, but if they do find out that they've been using it through VPNs, there's some sort of fines involved and so on. But so if you think right now it's restrictive, freedom of speech is on the line, human rights is on the line and so on, being under the control of China would be 10 times worse. 10 times worse. These will be the good old days. Honestly, right now with the high prices of inflation, with the high prices of gas, groceries, rent, mortgage, restrictive to freedom of speech from Telegram social media platform or other social media platforms censoring you and so on, these will be known as the good old days when we actually go into full censorship and the US losing dominance and China taking control of the financial markets and pretty much taking control of the entire game. This is not about BRICS, a collective of countries. This is about China pushing their yuan across. This is all that's about. It's about China pushing yuan across. China taking control. That's all it's about. So it's either US leads or China leads. In a very preferable world, neither one should lead. And everybody should have some sort of control. In a very nice world, we should have every country has their own, certain control of their own jurisdiction. Not one country controlling the entire play. But we don't live in that world. In the world we live in, one person is going to take control. It's either going to be US loses control, China takes control, or US continues with the control. So let's see how things plan out as we go along. On the topic of China and Russia, Russia to trial cryptocurrency exchanges for cross-border payments. Now, I revealed on this live show that Russia is doing two crypto platforms, one for St. Petersburg and the other one for the Moscow exchange. They're both going blockchain. So I have some deadlines on timelines of what's happening right now. Russia to trial cryptocurrency exchanges for cross-border payments. Russia is set to initiate trials of cryptocurrencies in terms of exchanges and digital tokens for cross-border payments and transactions starting September 1st, apparently. Russia is going to start cross-border payments testing and actually doing payments September 1st. This development aims to alleviate the payment difficulties faced by Russian companies due to international sanctions. The trial will utilize the national payment card system, which will facilitate the exchange between the rubles and the cryptocurrencies, according to sources familiar with the situation. In July, Russia's parliament passed legislation that legalizes crypto mining and establishes a framework for testing digital tokens under the supervision of the central banks. On August 8th, President Vladimir Putin signed these bills into law. The action is perceived as a calculated attempt to help Russian companies to navigate the increasingly difficult international payment landscape, which has been made much more worse by the expansion of the US sanctions across the foreign banks working with Russia. Yes, the US has put quite a lot of restrictive movements on Russia, even with foreign banks working with Russia. Even China is slightly scared. China is also slightly scared about being sanctioned by the US. So they're not doing fiat payments that much with Russia, just in case they get sanctioned next. China actually mentioned they don't want to get second sanctions, which means China is next to get sanctioned more. The Central Banks of National Payment Card Systems, created in 2014, has been selected for these trials in Russia on September 1st. This system currently operates as Mir cards and instant interbank payment systems, was chosen because of its essentially existing infrastructure for functions such as interbank settlements and clearing. These capabilities, along with full regulations by the central bank, make it suitable for the platform for this significant experiment. Despite the move towards legalizing crypto exchanges, the Russian government has not yet finalized how to fully integrate these platforms. Finance Minister Anton stated on August 14th that the authorities are still exploring the best ways to legalize cryptocurrency exchanges in Russia. Ongoing trials may lead to establishment of crypto platforms by Moscow Exchange and St. Petersburg Currency Exchange next year, depending on the success of the initial tests this year. The experiment with trading cryptocurrencies with the ruble marks a significant shift from the central bank's position in early 2022, when it was actually proposed a blanket ban on the use of the creation of cryptocurrencies. Now, as Russia faces growing obstacles in its global financial operations, these trials could provide an essential alternative for cross-border transactions. Russia's upcoming trials of cryptocurrency exchanges for cross-border payments reflects a strict response to the financial constraints imposed by international sanctions. With the legal framework now in place and the central bank's infrastructure ready, the trials could pave the way for a broader adoption of digital currencies in Russia's international trades, and depending on their success. So, Russia is moving heavily forward with their terms of regulations. September 1st is when they're going to be doing their first cross-border payments. We don't know what the exact amount of volume is going to be on their payments in terms of Russia. But their first initial payments is going to be on September 1st for cross-border payments. They've already passed the regulations part. They're obviously going to be introducing more regulations as they go along. So this year will be Russia doing cross-border payments, and next year will be a much more advanced level of cross-border payments happening with Russia. They're still advancing on their CBDC. Their Russian Ruble CBDC is coming out next year, but they might do some more testing, as they said, towards the end of the year. But China and Russia are moving things forward in terms of being able to do trades, because China wants to continue doing trades with Russia, but they want to do it off the books. And how do you do it off the books? You do it with cryptocurrencies. Let's go inside the comment section first before I see what's going inside the comment section first. It's quite a bit of questions to answer on. Joe Morrison, I don't hold that much crypto, but it's enough to buy. Let's go. I tried to verify on MEXC to buy XDC. It shows successful, but the review says failed. Lena, direct their customer service, see what's going on in terms of MEXC. Yeah, watching someone speak 2 hours for more than a year, I learned to read you. Let's go, Camel. Only with Bluetooth on Windows. Don't use cable. What are we talking about here? I mean, different conversation, go inside the conversation. 2 Bitcoin miners control 57% of BTC networks, say one article. That is, I've read the article, I haven't verified the article. One particular article did write that 57% of the crypto Bitcoin mining power is being controlled by 2 major corporations. Yes, this whole idea also about Bitcoin is the freedom token. Is in reality, everything is coordinated to happen inside the financial markets. Nothing happens by coincidence in this world whatsoever. And the world going into blockchain technology was not a coincidence in any sort of a way. The world going towards CBDCs was not a coincidence either. As I've pointed out multiple times, that when essentially COVID was started off, the exact same time COVID back in 2020 was started off, essentially 2019, 2020, that the World Bank was doing testings on blockchain payments, which was successful. And at the same time, COVID happened. And COVID was the catalyst, according to me and according to the German banks, for everybody moving away from fiat currencies, because cash carries germs, and COVID reduced the dependency on cash, is what COVID did. And everybody moved to online payments, on mobile payments, and like mobile banking, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay, which ironically Apple Pay, Samsung, Google Pay right now are going into test stages for CBDC payments. And they're starting with Indian banks, is what they're doing with CBDC payments for Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay. Now they have everybody used to the idea of just tapping your phones everywhere. But COVID was the catalyst for a blockchain world. And then as COVID was growing and growing, more people went towards the cryptocurrency space, because governments wanted you to learn how to be able to, send transactions, use your cryptocurrency wallets, because the governments were preparing you for a digital world. And then as we were progressing through, the government said crypto is bad. Everybody stay away from crypto, which was like a reverse basic psychology to make everybody run towards the cryptocurrency market instead, because the governments told you to run towards the crypto markets and run towards blockchain technology. Everybody will pretty much be against it. So on the other hand, they use reverse basic psychology to make everybody run towards the cryptocurrency markets instead. And then we had the Russian and Ukraine situation war, which bumped up the prices to create a much more bigger gap between everyone. And then they used some other political types of movements to create a much more bigger gap and create categories for types of people. And then they used the third war going on as a massive distraction to be moving forward more into CBDCs. And we're all going to have CBDCs launching. Most countries' jurisdictions will be launching by next year. We're going to have CBDCs. Russia is coming out next year. Those CBDCs. China is going to expand more. India is going to expand more. A few of the countries are coming out with CBDCs as well. Brazil's coming out next year as well. They've been applauded for their CBDC level right now by the Bank of International Settlements, the banks of all centralized banks, and 63 centralized banks. So quite a lot of things is happening right now, but nothing in this world was a coincidence. Nothing in this world was a coincidence. And blockchain didn't just come around by accident, and Bitcoin didn't come around by accident either. And everything was coordinated to happen perfectly, and it did happen perfectly. And everybody was fooled along this journey to think that DeFi or the crypto space, or in general anything to do with crypto, was for the people. It was never designed for the people. They just want you to get used to the digital payment side of it, to be able to use wallet transactions, to be able to do crypto payments and so on, because they want you to get prepared for a digital world. They were preparing you for a digital world since COVID, but most people weren't fully aware of that matter. Some people are still not inside the cryptocurrency world because they presume that as a Ponzi scheme or some sort of a scam. Those people naturally will just be left with CBDCs and have very, 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 very miserable lives ahead of themselves. But if you're intelligent enough, and you realize that this world is actually aiming towards a CBDC, that COVID was the catalyst for a CBDC world, and the end goal of blockchain technology is actually a CBDC world, then you can utilize that information for yourself to realize that there are 24,000 crypto projects in this cryptocurrency space right now. 24,000 crypto projects, according to the Bank of International Settlements. 98% of centralized banks are in CBDCs. So if 98% of centralized banks are in CBDCs, that means CBDCs is the most crucial factor moving forward inside this whole blockchain space world. There are 24,000 crypto projects, and only one project has an active CBDC platform that's won multiple CBDC awards, is ahead of the Bank of, is working alongside the International Monetary Fund. Also on the Bank of International Settlements PDF documented cross-border payments, also at the World Economic Forum event, do multiple speeches, and so many other things that are going on for it as well, but has an active CBDC platform, which is the most crucial part. So 24,000 crypto projects, active CBDC platform. This project is called Ripple, has a token called XRP, backbone of an entire financial system. It's quite easy to be able to tell, but it's an entire blockchain section that's been set up for us. The end goal is CBDCs. So you want to benefit from CBDCs, or you just want to be stuck on CBDCs? The question you have to ask yourself. Hope that rectified quite a lot of information for people. But if you still believe, even for a second, that everything is a coincidence, no, you're pushed towards blockchain technology. You just didn't know. And don't tell me to count the shit along. I can't count the balls in CMF. Let's go. How come I don't see anyone else's chats in my chat feature? Are things different on X versus TikTok chat room? Oh, my bad. I saw the chat with the other. All good now. Let's go, Zach. How you doing? It's evident on TikTok regarding China's progress on terms of taking control. Yep. When will Ripple pay the 125 million fine? They still have a little bit of time to pay it. Miles, good to buy XRP now, or wait for a drop, or will it drop there? Dollar cost average is always the best solution right now. China sounds like a nice place to let's go, Ray. How you doing? Billo, have you till 2026 to buy XRP? All the green lights should be on. Kraken case going to trial. Is a bigger chance for the SEC to appeal or less after this Ripple case? The part that the SEC wants to appeal, they can't appeal in any case, because that major crucial part the SEC wants to appeal. See, the SEC wants cryptocurrencies to be securities so they can fall under the authority of essentially the SEC, and the CFTC wants cryptocurrencies to be commodities so they can be under the control of the CFTC. Everybody just wants control of the cryptocurrency sector because it was a move. This whole blockchain section was a move to get everybody towards it. But everybody wants a piece of the pie. It's essentially what's going on. So, but the part that the SEC wants to appeal, they're gonna have a very difficult time appealing for the Kraken case as well. Once the results come up, 2026, absolutely. Maximum by the end of the year is once, because it will last 2 digits. You are on fire tonight, Miles. Let's go, Ian. Miles, you should be a rapper. Miles' nickname is Eminem. Can you repeat that again, but faster, this time long? Miles really is on fire. Let's go, Ray. And we have reached Miles. Good night, Miles. Thank you all for the news. Great live. Let's go, JPC tomorrow. I was about to say we've also reached the endings of tonight's live show as well. Perfect timing on JP's or JP. See you tomorrow, but at the same time as usual. Miles, in 2025, XRP will be 10 for sure, right? Consider variable change. 3 green lights. It gets 3 green lights. XRP can be whatever you want it to be, but it has to get 3 green lights. Good night, brother. Let's go. I missed the answer to my first question, Miles. What was your first question, Lena? It's evident on TikTok. Is that what your question was? It is. Regarding China, on being evident on TikTok, yes, they are definitely controlling the game. We're controlling the mindset with essentially TikTok. Night, Miles. Pablo, let's go. See you tomorrow sometime as usual. Is that what your question was? And regarding your previous statement, Lena, regarding MEXC, contact their customer service. See what's happening on that section. Let me know what they say. For more assistance, but contact their customer service first. See why that's going on. Also, we have reached tonight's ending of tonight's live show. If you enjoyed this live show and you're watching it for the first time ever, it's called the CMF. It stands for Crypto Miles Family. And on this live show, you can tune in every single night on X and YouTube Live. As you're watching me right now, this is episode 140. I know on X it says episode 127, but the title hasn't been changed for about 12 episodes. It won't change for some reason. There's a bug in the system, and Restream is the platform that I'm using. It's called Restream, and they're trying to fix this bug in the system right now, but it's still stuck with 127. So that's why I've put the episode numbers on the live show itself. There's actually episode 140 of the CMF live show. On this live show, you can tune in every single night. I talk about the most recent things that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about the world completely transforming into a digital era. If you enjoyed this live show, drop a follow, drop a like. If you haven't already subscribed, subscribe. And we have our own Telegram group as well, which anybody's more than welcome to join the Telegram group of this live show. So join the Telegram group of this live show as well. If you already haven't joined, amazing place to be. Genuinely, everybody's respectful as well. So on this live show, I went through topics like the situation with Russia in terms of cryptocurrencies, how far they've progressed, and one is going to be the starting gate for their cross-border payments to be happening on the 2 platforms, the St. Petersburg and Moscow exchange. I also talked about the yuan in terms of data and SWIFT and the progress it's made so far. I talked about the UAE in terms of their regulation policies, where they're introducing a one-fit license for all in terms of Dubai's licensing for cryptocurrency platforms and cryptocurrency projects can be used in other jurisdictions. So every country doesn't need to go through the rule books to create the wheel again. They can just use Dubai's rule book or the UAE's rule book. I also talked about India's progress on CBDCs, on how far they've come in terms of their payments. I also went through the news topic of China in terms of their AI, ramping up their movements, investing so much more money into their projects in terms of AI into the AI foundation to compete with the US markets. I talked about Tether's CEO telling everybody to move to El Salvador because of the European situation that's going on with Pavel. I talked about India restricting access to Telegram wallets, and people were posting on X screenshots that people that live in India that they can't have access to Telegram wallets, so they won't have access to a ton ecosystem to be able to do transactions. India is also creating a case file against Pavel, the founder of Telegram. So not only has France, the French authorities created a case file against him, but they've also, against Pavel, India's creating a case file against Pavel as well, the founder of Telegram, for some sort of other activities and conspiracy theories. And also the CEO founder, the CEO of Rumble decided to escape the EU as well, just in case he's next for freedom of speech on his platform. And then Russian hackers are also at the same time hacking the French authorities as well, because they want Pavel to be free. So a lot of things is happening over there right now in France. I also talked about MicroStrategy on tonight's live show regarding MicroStrategy's ETF, which is a 1.75% X leverage or 1.5% X leverage. It's doing $100 million in trading volume 6 days since it's been launched, which is massive in terms of volume. $100 million a day, pretty much. 6 days it's been launched so far. MicroStrategy's ETF of their 1.75 X leverage or their 1.5% X leverage. And then I also talked about this senior Fed member who spoke about bullish sentiments on interest rate cuts, crucial data coming points. coming this Friday. So quite a lot of news topics we went through on tonight's live show. If you enjoyed this live show, drop a follow, drop a like, and tune into it every single night. Let's see where I was inside the comment section. I was here. Mike, good to see you. Mike, good night. See you tomorrow sometime as usual. Camel, good night, brother. See you tomorrow sometime as usual. Take care. Miles and the CMF, have a great one. Ray, see you tomorrow, same timing as usual. Free Forever, see you tomorrow, same timing as usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. Great news. Let's go. Camel, see you tomorrow. Mike, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Bill, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Bottom 2024, the green lights, highly right. It's very likely, yes. Good night, Miles and CMF. Orphan, see you tomorrow, sometimes usual as well. Thank you for a bunch. And good night, Lena. See you tomorrow, sometimes usual. Damn, just got on. We'll catch up. Zipto, let's go. See you tomorrow, sometime as usual. Good night, all. Stormy, see you tomorrow, sometime as usual as well. What's the odds on Friday news? Good or bad? Seems like good so far. Consider a variable change on X. Even on X. Yep, it says 140 on this live. Yep, it's 140. It's episode 140. Let's go. Good night, Miles and family. Great live. Thanks for all you do. Let's go, Ian. Ian, see you tomorrow, sometimes usual. Thanks, Miles. Get some rest. Try listening to some deep green noise frequencies. Sounds on Spotify and loop it. See if it helps. Thank you, Shelly, for the recommendation. Shelly, it's daytime for sure. You have a good day. Is what Funky Brother said. Have a good day or night, family. Let's go, Shelly. See you tomorrow, sometimes usual. If you already haven't subscribed, subscribe on YouTube or on X. If you already haven't liked or retweeted this live show, please do. If you do get a chance to retweet and like this live show as well, drop a comment inside the comment sections as well after the live show is done. I will see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. Good night, brother. Below, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. CMF, see you tomorrow, same time as usual.